Like and follow if you love horror. I haven't done a reading this long in a really long time, and I don't know how much editing I'm going to be able to give this given the limited functionalities of TikTok. Say hi, Dumpling. So I'm just going to read, and if I fuck it up, we're just going to keep going. Did Dean Clintock have thoughts? Amber considered if the big dumb jock had more than a Rolodex of 5 insults. From what she could tell, all Dean could do was loosely string together the words fuck, faggot, shit, dick, and bitch into semi-coherent sentences. His IQ was pushing 95 at best, and the idea of him sitting in the woods thinking just didn't seem like his MO. To that end, she wondered how she let the meandering troglodyte convince her to follow him into the mountains. Amber was prepared for anything at this point. A practical joke, a not-so-practical joke, an even downright motherfucker's gonna bleed joke. Sure, he was captain of the varsity football team, and yeah, he was the most popular kid in school, but nothing about that appealed to Amber. As a matter of fact, they had a sort of understanding. He'd stay away from her, and she wouldn't insult him in ways that would force him to Google the meaning of words. But it was the idea. He wanted her to come with him to a place he'd been going for deep thought. Deep thought. The knuckle dragger was deep in thought. No matter how she tried to rationalize it, it didn't seem likely. Still, he seemed so serious. He'd missed multiple practices in the season. Sure, he'd missed multiple classes too, that was normal. But missing practice so late in the season? That was a surefire way for even Dean, the sheriff's son, to get benched. Meaning something had become more important than football. Maybe this was it. Maybe the pressure of being the coolest kid in school, being the sheriff's son, captain of the varsity team, had finally caused the kid to crack. Maybe some of it got through his skull. Maybe he realized he'd never amount to anything of value beyond this town, and the most he could hope for was to play professionally, which, given his averages, was not very likely. Maybe he'd realized that, likely, he was going to end up his dad's deputy and eventually take over as sheriff. Maybe he realized how small he was compared to the rest of the world, growing up in a mountaintop tourist town where the population shrinks from 1,500 people to maybe 70 people in the wintertime. It intrigued Amber. Not that Dean Clintock, of all people, might be going through an existential crisis, but that he wanted to share it with her. Frankly, she was just too curious. "How far are we climbing, man?" Amber steadied her gait, trudging up the dry creek bed, descending from the mountain. Autumn leaves fell around them. "This is just the first climb. I said it was far," he answered dismissively. We're gonna clear this here rise and..." There was an uncomfortable pause. "Head up east another rise into the next ridge." Whoa there, cowboy. That's Olivertown. What Amber referred to as the pet name for the town of Moon. I'm not exactly familiar to the Olivers. "It's fine." Dee gave a slight shake of his head. And Amber caught an eye roll out of the corner of his eye. "Most of the Oliver boys know me from before the league said they had..." Most of Oliver boys knew me before the league said they had to play for the next county over. We're not close or nothing, but I can come and go as I please, and they don't bother me. Forgive me if I prefer to avoid a dangerous pack of known fornicators and inbred mutants." Amber waved the thought off before proceeding back down the creek. What the shit? For the love of God, they don't have black veins and crab claws. That's actually a callback to a short story of mine. "You know what? Forget it. I thought you, of all people, would understand, but you've done nothing but bitch. If you don't want to see it, just fuck off back to those damn faggots at the school." Amber fought off the urge to play Dean Bingo in her head. All she had to do was get him to say dick, and the scorecard would be complete. She refocused and fought to stop smirking. "I'm sorry," she started simply, turning back around. It's just, that's over another 2 hours, and we haven't exactly got great history to date. I know, Dean gestured back up the hill. Amber did oblige. But the whole thing is just some damn joke. You'll get a scholarship, and you'll get the hell out of here and never look back. Even if I get into a third-string college on a sports scholarship, what then? I'm not going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Amber's own thoughts poured out of Dean's mouth, almost verbatim. The guy was actually getting it. He was actually having deep revelations. The whole thing threw off her game. She didn't know what to think or expect. If this was a gag, it was well outside his normal capacity. When was the last time she even saw him so much as pick up a newspaper? Where could this all be coming from? I don't want to be a damn cop, Dean continued. There's a whole world out there. I'll only get to see this town and maybe spring break in Cancun. I'll waste my life trying to determine if the break-in was a human or a raccoon, then maybe I'll retire and go on a fucking cruise once. Fuck is my life for? Why the fuck am I wasting my fucking time? I've already seen the whole damn thing play out. Fuck that shit. This town can suck my dick. And there it is, Amber thought while she tried not to chuckle to herself. Bingo. And then I found it. I found it. I found something different. I found a way out. I knew you'd understand. You've been waiting to blow this fucking town your whole life. And this is it. The way out. Dean nodded. He started climbing faster. Far beyond simple intrigue, Amber felt something close to disbelief. She needed to know what Dean stumbled onto that caused such revelations. She still wasn't comfortable with Oliver Town and certainly didn't want to meet any Olivers. Even Dean's dad wouldn't go to Oliver Town. But if Dean knew that the Olivers, but if Dean knew the Olivers, she would be willing to take the chance to learn for this big secret. The journey continued as the sun climbed with Dean and Amber. Finally, the westward climb broke into a ridge, and the two could easily travel. Just beyond the ridge was an opening to an old mine. Sweet Jesus, tell me you found an abandoned gold mine. Amber's eyes lit up. His secret could be anything at all, after all. No! Dean sounded annoyed again, like Amber was missing something obvious. I think it was Herkimer, but that's not the fucking point. Look, Pa told me a lot of miners from way back in the days were superstitious. They didn't have no regulations or modern equipment or nothing to keep them healthy. A lot of times, prospectors would start leaning on old witches and shit to help them get rich and stay safe. They get into it too, almost like black magic or some shit. Summoning demons and the like. A lot of hillbilly traditions link back to it. Dean proceeded into the mines without hesitation, like he was walking into his house. The notion of doing so herself felt uncomfortable for Amber. He practically disappeared no more than a few yards in, like darkness had just had a thickness to it. Yeah, I don't think I'll be going in there. Amber paused. Something nagged at her gut. Something was off. There was this smell, like a colossal wasp nest. Didn't think you of all people were afraid of the dark. Dean's voice came from inside, echoing in the chambers. It's no more than 20 yards, then it just ends. Come on, you came all this way. Just come back here and see for yourself. There was that nagging sensation, that awful smell, the impenetrable darkness. Everything about it smacked of danger, but she just had to know. Why else come all this way? In there was the thing that opened Dean's mind. Slowly she moved into the darkness, and it enveloped her. Every step forward was a step towards uncertainty. Just up ahead, something moved, something barely perceptible. Amber didn't scream. She didn't have the chance. It's not a bad first chapter, I think, if I do say so myself. I'm going to just pat myself on the back right there.
Good job, babe. Good job, Mom. You did good.
Chapter 2, The Lake. George pulled up to the sheriff's old Crown Vic. The sheriff was busy hanging posters on a telephone pole caked with wanted signs and missing person signs, and hardly seemed to notice George pull up. Evening, Ossifer! George belted out with glee. He was already a couple in.